Warming up before you draw is an important step to becoming a better sketcher. In this video, I will show you 3 drawing exercises to improve your straight lines, circles, and ellipses. To start with the straight lines, start by drawing a series of dots on either side of the page and connect them with one stroke of your pen. Remember to draw it with your arm and sketch past both points. I like to go with my line once or twice to practice before I lay down my line. A couple things to note with this exercise is that you want to be drawing with your arm. So that's using more of your shoulder and your elbow rather than your wrist or your hand to draw these lines. You want to draw something that is straight, and it's easier to achieve something that goes straight between one point and another with some speed. So to draw a little bit faster is a little bit easier. And it's also good to draw where you look where you want to draw, not where you are drawing. So if my pen is down here, then I'm going to be glancing down over here before I go and move my line over there. You can also check to see how your lines are doing by tilting your page up a bit and looking down the page to see how straight your lines are. Now, straight lines are also easier to achieve on a shorter distance. So sometimes it's easier to draw the shorter side of the page. It's also important to note that I'm drawing past the mark on either side. This is good to establish a construction line, and it's just in general good practice. So fill a page, a couple pages of those. That's a good example of how to warm up your straight lines. With circles, start with a page of circles. What you want to look for is a nice round circle where the circle is complete as it comes around and the lines overlap each other nicely. And the practice here is to try and fill all the circles with more circles. And here what you're trying to do is connect it on 2, maybe 3, sometimes even 4 points. It's a hard thing to do, but it's good practice. Now you can fill your page full of circles within circles, or you can find the center point of one of the larger circles and try to land your circles on the same central point. Now you notice that I'm also drawing over, sometimes drawing 2 lines. I think that's a lot better than drawing one slow, shoddy line. It's better to draw 2 relatively quick ones. And you also notice that I'm ghosting my line, where I'm moving my hand along the page, but I haven't drawn a line yet. This is just to get some practice in before you actually lay down your pen. It's a good way of getting nice, clean, consistent line quality. And now you can also check if your circle is nice and circular by dividing it into quarters and kind of comparing visually how the different quarters are looking. And this one seems to be a little bit okay. This one I can see is a little bit squished. So that's not what I want to see. That's more of what I want to see. So fill a couple pages like that. And for the last page exercise on ellipses, actually before ellipse we go over that, I want to talk a bit about how a circle relates to an ellipse. An ellipse is essentially a squished circle in one direction. This one is shortened this way. And so the way that you divide it is still, it makes sense. In the anatomy of an ellipse, we call this shorter side the minor axis and this one the major axis. For the For a lot of sketching with ellipses, the minor axis is the only one that really is useful to know where it is. So here, this is the shorter side of an ellipse divided in half, and if we were to fold this in half along its minor axis, then you would see, a nice ellipse. You would see that this side A is mirrored exactly on side B, so that this curve is the exact same, or the mirrored version of that curve, and so forth. So that's the anatomy of an ellipse. Now for the exercise, here we have 3 lines on the page. Start by drawing 3 lines. And the idea here is to land your ellipses on a consistent minor axis. So here we have 3 lines. I'm going to start with line A, and use line A as the central point for my minor axes. So here I'll start by again ghosting this line and then laying it down. So I began to put a little bit more pressure on it, and here I'm starting to draw ellipse. That's a nice ellipse here. You can tell by it was a nice clean stroke. It completed it at the end, and that the left side and the right side are equal, relatively equal in size, and they're following a nice curvature throughout the whole thing. So continue to fill your page with more ellipses. Always good to draw, to ghost your line and maybe draw over your first line drawing. And so that's good to try to land your ellipses along a minor axis like that. Here I'm not going to work with a minor axis. What I'm going to work with is a constraint between 2 lines. So here between B and C, what I'm trying to do is draw an ellipse between these 2. So there's an invisible minor axis there, but what we're trying to do is make sure that we're not going over either B or C. We're trying to just touch it, And so here you can see the difference between the minor axes, about the top one and the bottom one, is quite considerable. Here's a nice short, has a short minor axis. This one has a nice tall minor axis. So this is really establishing a difference of perspective in this ellipse. And we'll go over that more when we talk about perspective. So there you go. That's a great way to warm up before you do any kind of sketching about drawing with warming up your ellipses, warming up your straight lines, and practicing your circles.